Earth is a prison to dwell in. And you are people who rebel, who would listen to Satan, as you call him, which was Azazillah then, or Tanush. You listen to him. You follow? And you've been assigned to earth until you overcome that. Until you turn and give your total reverence to Allah. Right knowledge, beyond the shadow of any doubt.
All right, family. Let's go ahead and open up with the affirmation, man.
Ado kul azum tapletet wadana bet mahu hadis aishu fina kalu. Anuki fina aishu shukalu wakula shukalu. Na atakuna fikalu. Anuki feragun shukalu wakalu. Kalu feragun shuni. Anuki wahid kakalu wakalu kalu wahid man. Nuk aikiru anjihu kana feragun shukalu wakhub kama feidu. Nuk aikiru agwenu kulik nuka pili fikalu. Kama tawu kama kafadi kalu liye amidu fikalu. Anuki kabahawa kalu kalu nanuki. Kalu Yaku Nukekidu, Kalu Babu, Katmidu. Begin all prayers, thinkies, indeed, who divine love in all. I am in the love of all, and all love is me. We are all in all. I am a part of all, and all is a part of me. I am one with all, and all is one with me. I can succeed as a part of all and fail as an individual. I can be all I wish in all as long as my wishes stay in all. I am never alone. All is I am. All can I can. All does I do.
Thank you, family. And welcome, everyone. This is the Holy Tablet class I'm teaching tonight. Brother Chris Love. This is the House of Who. Really appreciate everyone showing up and everyone that will show up. So we're going to go to page 19 of the Holy Tablets. The creation, El Istiqlal. Breaking into tablet 2 right now. And I wanted to start here because when you read the Holy Tablets, the way the master teacher recorded it, and if you read it moving forward, you'll see that it has punchlines in it. Meaning, when you read something in the tablets, it could always reference something else that happened in the tablets or was stated in the tablets as well. So, without further ado, on page 19, before we really go into what we're going to read tonight, which is the story of Lucifer and the war in the skies, referred to as the war in heaven. For all the people that's familiar with the book of Revelations in the King James Version of the Bible, it's Revelation chapter 12, verse 7. There was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and prevailed them not. So this is actually talking about a war that happened in the galaxies, in the heavens, prior to the birth of Adam and Eve on the planet. So this is a history, right, given to us by the master teacher, Dr. Melchizedek York. Page 19, I'll go down to where it says, be not arrogant. Because it's very important that we actually get this quote. And as you can see in the tablets, when it gets to a certain quote that he wants to imprint upon your soul, it'll be italicized, right? So it's kind of like a footnote within the tablets itself. So I'll go ahead and read this. Be not arrogant of our knowledge. Take counsel with the ignorant as well as with the wise, for the limits of knowledge in any field has never been set, and no one has ever reached them. Wisdom is rare than emeralds, and yet they are found amongst the women who gather at the grindstones. Be diligent as long as you live, always doing more that is commanded of you. Do not misuse your time while following your heart, for it is offensive to the soul to waste one's time, right? So that's page 19. We're going to actually turn over to page 21, and I'm going to start at actually verse 83 of page 21. This is chapter 1, the creation, El Istiqlal, the Holy Tablets, right? So, verse 83. In the fourth cycle, the Luciferian race made war upon the Anunnaki of the pure green light. Now pause. This is referencing, to give you the context if you're coming in right now into the class, this is referencing the battle that took place in the heavens. Now as we read on, it'll get deeper in defining other battles that took place in the heavens, right? So, 84, the Anunnaki, Elohim, triumphed over the race of Jinn, as Anu had done over his brother Alelu, who descended to the seventh, the blue planet, inward, then called Tiamat, after his defeat. Anu ascended unto the throne of Nibiru. Murdock captured one of the jinn who was under the age of maturity named Balas, or Iblis, meaning despaired or rebellious one. 85. His other name was Lucifer, being the liberated Luciferian. Balas was educated amongst the Anunnaki, and he improved by degrees so much that he was honored and made a teacher of the Anunnaki. You must remember that Lucifer, being one of the most rare Luciferians, was almost all polarized, meaning he had two conflicting natures, being part Anunnaki and part reptilian. Lucifer was a product of a mixed marriage between the son of two beings. The reptilian Tarnush raped the Anunnaki Malata, or Melita, which made Lucifer part reptilian and part Anunnaki. All right? This is why he is called the serpent that spoke beside the tree in the enclosed garden of delight, located in what is called Bali today. Now let's pause. We had talked about this in the class, the last Holy Tablet class, that there were 7 kingdoms that were set up. And some of these ancient kingdoms had gardens of Eden in them. So thus, it's referring to one of them right now. It was the enclosed garden of delight located in what is called Bali today. 90. Thus, there were beings who appeared to have a compromising attitude or personality. Yet it was Lucifer who appeared to be headstrong and have a disagreeable nature and an uncompromising attitude or personality. However, from his loins came the Jabarians or Jabarians, called Gaborim, the majestic mighty ones. Pause. In Genesis chapter 6, it refers to the giants that were in the earth in those days. This is also linking those giants into the mighty ones, the majestic ones, the Jaborim. All right. 93. The strength of the Luciferians made them able to better deceive the seed of Adam by their physical human-like appearance. He, Balas, aspired to become the guiding light, the ruler, the sultan of all the stars of the heaven, the prince of Garub, a cherub in his heart. He sought the very throne of Anu. Anu reigned over a court of great splendor. It was the place with an artificial garden sculpted with semi-precious stones. There Anu resided with his wife, his half-sister Antu, 6 concubines, 80 children, of which 14 were by Antum. 1 prime minister, 3 commanders in charge of the Mu, rocket ships, 2 commanders of the weapons, 2 great masters of written knowledge, 1 minister of the purse, 2 chief justices, 2 chief scribes, and 5 assistant scribes, all of which Balas wanted to rule. So let's pause right here, right? Let's see who got in the room with us, all right? So, people, growing up, I'll just share this with you from my perspective and my experiences. Growing up, I always heard in the church about the war in heaven and how the devil used to be an angel of light and how he got into a fight, quote unquote, with God and was cast down to earth, right? We all know that cliche story that's been taught in religion, right? So when I started to ask questions as a youngin', pretty much like, okay, if he got cast down, that means he's physical like us. I mean, it's hard casting something that you can't touch. So I knew as a kid that we was dealing with physical things, right? So in this breakdown, this translation, he's making everything real. We talk about the Most High, Psalms 82 verse 6. We the sons of God, but we're all sons of the Most High, and it's apparent that the Most High is a seat or a position. And I wanted us to kind of open up and start talking about that tonight, because we kind of mentioned it earlier in the last Holy Tablet class about this position and the force behind the position, being who? The force of creative will, all in all, and that this Anu is a position or a seat. So it's talking about a certain moment in our time frame before the creation of Adam, before the creation of earth and human beings as we know it, the war in heaven. Now that war I said earlier is Revelations, 12 verse 7. So it's giving you a breakdown of this character who we call Iblis, or the devil, or Satan, or Lucifer, and how after a battle, one of the high up angels, the archangel Murdock, also known as Michael, right? Just like Revelations 12 verse 7, right? He took this young cherub, this quote unquote negative bad angel, who was a half-breed. He was a hybrid between one of our people and one of the reptilian people. right? Very intelligent kid. Michael took him up and tried to raise him up, amongst the other angels or the Anunnaki, and this is that story being broken down. So 96, Balance was called Samael in short, with the vapor of self-complacency and conceit, which is the real nature of Balance. Pause. So it's giving us the nature of who we've always known and were taught that was Lucifer. He has basically that self-complacency, that conceit, that disagreeable nature. It mentioned headstrong, non-compromising personality, non-compromising attitude. And, there was a book, or scroll, should I say, that when Dr. Malachi York released it, it shook our community, it shook the world up, because it gave us a mirror to put in front of ourselves. Because, it's saying right here that, we had mixed in with these people a long time ago. Even before some of us came down here, we was mixing in with these people, these disagreeable people by nature, right? So it got into us, got into our genes, right? 97. Next, he wanted to scale the skies to try to control and rule all the stars, Yahwehians, the angelic host of the heavens. Very often, he would incite unnecessary arguments, pretending about his excellence by means of deceitful illusions and diabolical stratagems. Pause. So when I read that verse, I think about humanity as a whole, unnecessary arguments, pretending, just flexing on your excellence, too much shine, too much glamour, too much arrogance and bourgeoisie by the means of deceitful illusions and diabolical stratagems. 99. Once some of the company of the agreeable Anunnaki, I'm turning my page because I'm reading it, have a look at the preserved tablet, the holiest of holy scriptures, upon which contain the record of the past and the future called Munir, illuminated records, or the Akasha records. 101. On their return, Balance perceived marks of grief on their foreheads and asked them for the cause of the grief, and they replied, "This day we have obtained the information from the tablet that one of the Anunnaki, cherubim, Garubat, those who are near, the companions of Michael, meaning who dares to be like El, of the mansion of the eternal, shall soon be afflicted with the rejection and everlasting damnation." 103. Everyone is afraid for his own sake, and we request you to pray that the guardian Anunnaki may allow none of us to fall into this misfortune. We are very terrified and dismayed. 104. Then Balance answered them, saying, "Let not this even disturb you, for that judgment refers to neither you nor to me." 105. I have years ago been aware of it and have not communicated it to anyone. The pride and the arrogance of Balance did not allow him to weigh the words of the Anunnaki. Pause. Right here, he's giving us an example, once again, of the nature of Lucifer, the nature of Balance, the nature of who we were always taught was the devil. And it's kind of like a levity with some disagreeableness dripped all over it. Like people who pretend to be naive and non-compassionate, and think that everything that's balanced and fair and natural doesn't apply to them. So, we've met these people before in your everyday life. We work with them, some of us are related to them. And unfortunately, some of them might be us. We just got to work out these disagreeable sides of our nature, right? So, 106. At the time, the blessed proclamation reached the hearing of the inhabitants. The echo of the success of Cadman Zakar reached their ears. On the hearing the news, their depression was ejaculating from there permeated their being from the kindled anger of the unhallowed disagreeable doer Balance. 108. He spoke, saying, "How can mortals created of dust claim to be a being of superiority when I am created before them of fire, the previous sun cycle?" Pause right there, right? And when I was learning this from like the True Light tape series that I mentioned to you guys in the last Holy Tablet class, he was breaking down the creation story. He was breaking down the war in heaven, and how Bliss was like, when all of the supreme beings, the Anunnaki, were asked to pay respect to the newly created group of people, the Adamites, Zakar was their ruler, the rulership of Zakar over the planet. Iblis had a problem with it. And he was like, yo, these people just got created. I've already been here. So it was like that pride. And we feel this a lot from the older generation too. Because, as learning is knowledge, you try to take this to some of your elders, and, a lot of our elders are stuck in their ways. Just like some of us have become stuck in our ways, right? And, they shun you and they look crazy at you and they talk it. And it's relating to either that nature, or it's relating to someone being firmly stuck in their place, right? And both need to change. So at this time, I want to just open up the conversation for anyone that's listening. Does anyone have any comments, any things they want to add, any questions right now? All right. Just want to give a wahoo bat out to all the family that's listening. Can y'all give me a shout out? Let me know y'all there.
Mana.
Roll back. All right.
Robot.
Hey, robot family. All right, so 109, we're reading right down from the creation, the Holy Tablets, chapter 1, right? I'm at 109 right now on page 22, right? We're talking about pretty much the story of Lucifer and the war in the heavens, right? 109. So the Anunnaki, having guessed the event to come from the sons of Tarnush, said to El Elo, will you make a mischief maker in it who will shed blood? So pause right here. Lucifer, or Balas, is that person that when you have a group of people that are building momentum towards something that's positive toward themselves, you have that person that makes everyone question, should they really be going that direction, right? And they make it seem intellectual and they make it seem fair seeming, right? Because now at this point in time, he's gotten the sons of Tarnush now asking, hey, he brought up this point, like we was here first. Is this new group of people, are they going to be killers like us? Like to insinuate, like, why would you make another killer if we got killers already? So that seems like a fair seeming question, but this is the Most High, so he knew what they didn't know. He knew what they knew not. And that's even documented in the Quran, him saying to them, I know what you know not knowing that the nature of Adam was greater and higher than theirs, right? They were too arrogant to really, just see it through, right? And 110. This was repeated by the Kuthites on the planet Earth, right? So now they got people on Earth screaming the same thing. These Kuthites, who were really the sons of the fallen angels when they came to Earth and they raped the pygmy women. That's another side of the fallen angel story. When the fallen angels were coming down from heaven, they start coming down, taking the forms of human beings. They were giants, very tall, very powerful looking men and people. And they start raping some of the women, the human women, right, that were already down here on the planet Earth. They produced this group of people called the Kuthites, right? 11, by the command of Anu, El Elo, by Murdock, the son of Enki and Damkina, and the grandson of Anu, who would descend to the fourth plane, advised and warned the race of Nataz, who had gone astray from the straight path. Let's pause right here. When it's giving you references to Anu, telling Murdock, who's the son of Enki, these are the supreme beings. These are the Anunnaki, right? The angelic hosts, as some have been taught that they are, right? So, who would descend down to the fourth plane, advised and warned the race of Nataz, who had gone astray from the straight path. So Murdock was coming down to really trying to convince them, yo, don't do this. This took place before the physical war was waged within. It was a mental war. The agreeable Anunnaki were victorious. This, however, would not be the last time that the forces of the benevolent, agreeable and disagreeable benevolent would do battle. All right. So that's just talking about one of the battles that took place in the galaxies, in the heavens, prior to, the whole biblical side of Adam's family coming into play. So right now we're page 22, chapter 1, the creation, El Istiklaq, the Holy Tablets. And I would like to call upon a sister, to read a page, if that's all right. So could I get a volunteer, a sister to volunteer to read the next page? That would be the last paragraph, 22 and then 23.
Who, Mana?
Mana.
Tablet 3, the story of Lucifer. 19 times 1 equals 19. Lo, O my children, let me warn you about Lucifer and his host. Do not fall into the delicacies of Lucifer and his host. O you who are of the faithful, reject Lucifer and his companions. He, Lucifer, comes in many forms to trick and deceive you, the faithful ones. Lucifer, the evil reptilian, who is also called Halal or Samael, was number 3 of his order. When he was commissioned by Murdock, he was designated as one of the 100 most able and brilliant personalities. In more than 700,000 of his kind, however, from such a magnificent beginning through evil and error, he encouraged disagreeable acts. Lucifer was so self-nourished to the point of self-deception that he actually persuaded himself that his contemplation of rebelliousness was actually for the good of the system, if not of the universe.
Let's pause right there. I hear this argument a lot, especially when I'm working, and you start hearing people echo sentiments of politicalism and all that. So one year I'm working, I'm doing IT, and I'm in the meeting with the IT guys, and I guess it was like a war somewhere. It's like, yo, we should just go over there and nuke all of them. We should go over there and kill all of these people. And I'm in the meeting looking like, dang, all them people they talking about killing is actually brown. It gave me like a real life reality check about the nature of people and how they can either be that way naturally or be manipulated by politics to have this ideology. It's really evil when they say, hey, it's good for us to go to war. It's good for the economy. It's good for such and such, such and such, And Pops used to say that all the time, how they get other people to go kill other people on the other side of the world if we don't really know, and they call it war. It doesn't really matter the definition. It's dealing with the mentality, the nature of a certain type of mentality in people. But go ahead, sister. Thank you. Go ahead.
Lucifer became insincere, and evil evolved into deliberate and willful disagreeable acts. Lucifer believed that the universal father did not exist and that physical gravity and space energy were inherent in the universe.
Pause right there, sis. This is the whole breakdown. This small verse right here is the reference given to the modern day atheists. When people say, "Oh, it's just energy," you know what I'm saying? There's no beings that deal with all this. This is just cause and effect. This is just subatomic particles in science. This is that statement that we're pulling from right now in verse 12. Lucifer believed that the universal father did not exist, and that the physical gravity and space and energy were inherent in the universe, meaning that was the limit to all creation, right? So, go ahead, sis. Thank you. Go ahead.
He believed that the sustainer was a myth that was invented by Sarafat to enable them to maintain the rule of the universe in their father's name.
Pause right there again. That's a powerful line right there, right? Well, the Sarafat, we know the Sarafat is Nawapi for the seraphim, the agreeable Elohim, or that angelic host of the Anunnaki, right? But to enable them to maintain the rule of the universes in their father's name, talking about Anu, the Most High. So if the key word here that I'm pulling out from this verse is universes, that's a plural, right? Right here in the Holy Tablets on the 23rd page is letting us know it's more than one universe. And this seat, this Most High rules over all of them. But, with Halal or with Lucifer, never seen Anu, right? He started to rationalize in his mind, he don't really exist. It's just them running this. Because at certain levels, it's like at that point in time, you couldn't even be in the presence of the court of the Most High unless you were vibrating on a certain frequency, right? All right, so let's go ahead, sis. Please continue.
Lucifer believed that the universal system should be autonomous or self-governing and independent. He protested against the right of Murdock, who also bore the title of Mikael, who dares to be like El, the grandson of the Most High, Anu, the Heavenly One. He was willing to acknowledge Murdock as his creator, father, but not as his rightful ruler.
That's powerful. You could pause right there for 1 second, sis. Right? You could pause right there because, all right. So even though Murdock Michael had took Balus, who became Lucifer. He took him up and he raised him up like that was his own son, trying to reform or attempting to reform the nature of the people that he came from, the reptilian side of his nature, right? So Lucifer, or Balus, the one who was rebelling, he was like, yo, I ain't never seen Anu, I don't know about none of that. I consider you my creator, my father, but I don't even want you ruling me. So even though he considered Michael his creator father, he was still not going to bow down to Michael, right? Because he had never seen Anu on that level, right? But go ahead and continue, sis. That's verse 17.
He had claimed that the whole plan of worship was a clever scheme to glorify the Elohim. He had totally rebelled against the order of Anu, the Most High, the highest, and caused mischief and war in the heavens. This was not the first war. The first war was with his father, Humbaba, or Tarnush, against Marduk.
Okay, pause right there, sis. I appreciate that. We will let you read the rest of that here shortly, but I wanted to go over and let people know that there were 2 wars in the heavens, really 3 that's mentioned in what we've read so far, right? We went over 3 wars in the heavens, right? The first being with Anu and his brother, Alelu, right? And then the second being with Tarnush, right? Who was the father of Balus. So Tarnush rose up and tried to overthrow, the order of governance from the seat of the Most High, who governs all the universes, right? And he failed. So then his son, who was adopted or got raised up by Michael or Murdock, tried to reform the kid, right? And he became one of the wisest Anunnaki or beings of that time amongst them, even though he was part reptilian. They still gave him respect because of how intelligent he was. But he rose up again too, right? So it's talking about 3 wars that actually took place in that small segment that we've read. And a lot of this, like I said earlier, is referencing Revelation chapter 12, verse 7 in the King James Version when it speaks about the war in heaven. And I shouldn't say it's referencing King James. King James is really referencing, this information from the tablets, because a lot of that information was taken from the tablets and then watered down to give us, the Judo-Christian concept of it, right? So we just kind of went over the story of Lucifer, right? And some of the wars that took place in the heavens. Does anyone have any questions, any comments, any input on what we've read so far? All right, I'm gonna take that as a no so far. So right now we're at tablet 4, the war in the skies. And sis, I'm gonna let you go ahead and complete this. If you'll continue reading on to the end of page 23.
Tablet 4, the war in the sky. 19 times 3 equals 57. Lo, the first conflict was in the skies of Ilium, the 19th galaxy, also called the Great Galaxy, known as the place on high, where the etheric records called Akasha are kept. The first conflict was when Tarnush, also known as Humbaba, son of Tagut and Sin, tried to take over Ilium. Balus wanted to rule all the stars and the Anunnaki of the skies.
Let's pause right there. Okay, that first paragraph, the first 2 verses right there, right, is giving you the context of why that battle took place, right? The records called Akasha were kept. These etheric records called Akasha, and people who study have heard of the Akasha records, right? So basically, we're talking about in real talk. We're talking about the wars that took place amongst, the gods, the Anunnaki, the angels, so to speak, based on how some of us were raised over here in the heavens. This is before Adam. This is before all of that, right? So it's giving you the context of physical beings who had kids. That's why I say Tarnush is the son of, and Halal is the son of, and Enki is the son of. These were people. It's just family. So we're kind of seeing a huge family beef play out right now, right? So go ahead, sis, please.
Tarnush was second in command under Marduk, son of Enki and Dabkina. Tarnush felt that Marduk was not qualified for leading the fleets of his grandfather Anu. During this time, the planet Titan, which is considered a moon of the planet Saturn, was a home base of Humbaba, who was called Cronus and Saturn, husband of Ops, companion of the fire goddess Lua, father of Picus.
Pause right there, sis. We also start to see, as the tablets go into the origin story of the wars in heaven and who fought them and why they fought them and how the beef ended, right? It's also giving you, once they migrated, when the battles were happening, and after they happened to some of these planets, they became known as certain names, right? And if you look at certain names that they became, you go back to Cronus. Cronus is Kronos, right? You get into how some of the cultures that we've been taught growing up, like the Greek and Roman cultures and all these ancient cultures, they were giving these people names based on events that happened, battles that happened. You know, once they migrated from here to there, right? So go ahead, sis, please.
His reigning period was called Saturnalia, and to this day, it's celebrated between December 17th and December 25th. Those under Cronus were claiming Anshar, foremost of heaven, which is today called Saturn, which was the astrological sign of Anshar, father of Anu, as their home base.
Let's pause right there for 1 second, right? Even in the tablets, as we read on, we come to find out that when the Anunnaki were coming to and fro in this cycle, to this solar system, to this planet, they would always stop by. Some of them would move in. Some of them had missions. Some of them needed a mind goal. Some of them wanted to get away from home. Some of them wanted to hunt dinosaurs for sport. Some of them wanted to come kick it. Some of them wanted to come turn up. Some of them wanted to come smash. Whatever they was doing when they came on them cycles, right? Some of them came early on and adopted certain planets in our solar system. You know, like it just said, Saturn, or the ancient name was Anshar, right? That's Anu's father, you know? So it was like the royal family, when they came in the solar system, sometimes each one of them took a planet or adopted a planet the way we would go buy a house. Because we're talking about, you know, supreme beings. So the way we look at real estate here is how they look at planets and solar systems there. They buy them, they make them, they come, they set them up, they put life on them, right? It's a real thing for them. So, you know, getting into the concept of this planet is named after this person, it should be real common, because you're going to put your family name on your mailbox when you move in. That's kind of how they doing the planets, right? All right, sis, go ahead and get that last little piece for us, please, and I'll take the next page.
The ring planet named Saturn rotates very quickly, 10 hours and 40 minutes for it to turn once on its axis. Saturn bulges even more at its equator than Jupiter. Saturn has a very deep atmosphere.
I'll take it, sis, which is made up mainly of hydrogen and helium, with some methane and ammonia. At the top of his atmosphere, the temperature is about negative 300 degrees Fahrenheit. This low temperature causes ammonia in the outer atmosphere to freeze and forming a high altitude haze. 7, more and more space probes from NASA are being sent into space due to the curiosity of mankind. Now, we all know that mankind, you know, that's a concept that I first heard from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You know, he broke down man and mankind being kind of a man. It's talking about 6,000 years ago, there was some people grafted out of us. And now, you know, those people pretty much run everything, right? Or so they think, all right? 8, space probes to Saturn are being sent to various planets and moons, such as Cassini, that was sent in 1997 AD, filled with 72 pounds of highly radioactive plutonium. The probe, named after Giovanni Domenico Cassini, an Italian-born French astronomer. Pause. It's curious because every time they seem like they send a space probe to a planet or something like that, they always send a bomb with it. If you always watch the sci-fi movies, family, every time they try to go stop something from happening or go investigate some aliens, they always send one dude with the key to the bomb on the ship and nobody knows about it. Like, that's their last and first resort, because it's pretty much their nature, right? 9, the planet Titan was the home base of the disagreeable Anunnaki, which were divided into 12 continents. The Greeks named them, Oceanus, Creus, Cois, Epatus, Cronus, Hyperion, Rhea, and Misenum, Thea, Themis, Tethys, and Phoebe. The disagreeable Anunnaki made Titan an alternative when they were cast out, and the capital was Phoebe, from whence you get the word phobia, an irrational fear of a specific thing or situation to avoid or dislike or aversion. It's kind of funny too, I'm pausing up right here, family, that they're breaking down that they couldn't really take over Saturn, right? When the wars happened and the disagreeable angels were scattered, they tried to go to Saturn and take it over, but our people were already living there. So they took Titan, the moon of Saturn, as their planet, as their home base. Notice that they in the same solar system as us right now, right? I heard the master teacher break down that even during the time of Noah, or Utnapishtim, when they had the flood, which is really when the poles shifted and the water moved from one side to the other because of a pole shift, right? And the Anunnaki, the Elohim, they knew about it. But, it was Enki who actually selected Noah, Utnapishtim. Hey, I'm going to tell you how to survive. So when the poles shifted, there was a small group of humans that did survive based on that story. But there were other people on the planet that survived it too, right? So let's go ahead and go on here, family. All right, I'll pick up from where I left off. The space satellite Phobos on Mars was named after the 12th continent Phoebe of Titan. This is the mystical 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 tribes of Ishmael, and the 12 signs of the zodiac under the Olympian deities Zeus and Jesus, born in the 12th month of the Gregorian calendar, with 12 disciples, who becomes Jesus and Yahshua to Jehovah. However, some of these disagreeable Anunnaki took residence on one of the 3 continents of the planet Risk, the continent called Zarantu. They were restricted from visiting the 2 other continents, Darnuria and Khusmusta, without a Riskian escort. So let's pause right there because we're actually getting pretty deep on this. This is talking about the fallout from the war. Like any war that happens and ends, people got to go somewhere after the war is over, good or bad, right? So, some of the disagreeables who fought and they lost and they got defeated, they scattered abroad. Some went to Titan, some were allowed to come back to the home world, and they were able to live on that one continent. This is also mentioned in one of the popular scrolls by Dr. Malachi York, the man from Planet Risk, when he started breaking down the angels and the Elohim or the Anunnaki, what they did before they actually came in. So it's one of the reasons why I wanted to take us back to the tablets, because going back into the holy tablets, it makes everything real and it defines everything clearly, what we stand for, what we're doing, and the culture, So I'm gonna keep reading on here. Zaratu was under the command of Tarnush, who wanted total control of Risk. However, Murdock was chosen by Anu to lead the fleets, and this caused a disagreement between Murdock and Tarnush. Anu's decision for Murdock to lead Anu's fleets caused a disagreement between Murdock and Tarnush, which caused a small war and a clash on the planet Risk, which comes from the word Razaka, meaning to provide. Tarnush, also known as Hababa, attacked the planet Risk with the shield depleter, aerosol, a gaseous suspension of fine solid and liquid particles. This substance can today be found in such produce as paint, detergent, or insecticide, packaged under pressure with gaseous propellant for release as a spray of fine particles. This is what they're using to eat up the ozone layer, right? Now, I think we see these like maybe three times a week in every city. You'll see them spraying the chemtrails. Sometimes I watch it live outside. That's an aerosol mixture, but it also has nanoparticles in it. So it's meant to eat up the atmosphere, to change the climate, to make it hotter, but it's also meant to put things inside of us as the nanites to send down and we breathe them in and it touches our skin. It's really supposed to make us hyperactive. So usually wherever you see a lot of chemtrails spread or sprayed, that once or twice or 3 times a week over a certain area, you got to notice the violence in the area. You'll see the violence pick up on the news based on where they concentrate the chemtrails. Because it's supposed to make us hyperactive and overreact, right? So that's a form of that aerosol that they've been kind of dishing out for a long time. And it kind of started on, back on Risk. So a lot of the things that we see take place in the ancient stories of the Elohim or the Anunnaki, they're doing the same tech down here today to destroy this Earth's atmosphere. So it's a wild experience, but it is what it is, family. So, all right. Let's say today the children of the Luciferians are using the same tactics here on the Earth to deplete the ozone or the shield of this planet. The aerosol bomb of Cronus comes from the root word ara or ere, simply air, atmosphere, aeroballistics, and a gas, aerosol, from the Greek word air, meaning air, and the word sol, meaning sun. So you get air for O or omega ending and sol, sun. Just like the destruction of the atmosphere and the suns of risk. The same epidemic is also being done here on Earth. This aerosol bomb of Cronus caused the natural atmosphere of risk to deplete. The Riskians had no protection from the damaging rays of the three suns. The atmosphere was dwindling away and many Riskians departed to other galaxies. The rays from the three suns, Utu, Shamash, and Apsu, had put a hole in our ozone layer, as you now have a hole in your ozone layer over Australia, expanding daily. 14. Risk, the eighth planet, was the heart and the source of that tri-system, and thus was the most affected, as Earth is the heart of this solar system. All right. So I want to get another person to volunteer to read. Let's see what we got in the crowd right now. We got about 10 people in the group. I want to get a brother to read now, like the remaining page of 25 from the Holy Tablets. Please, let's get a brother to volunteer to read the rest of this. Thank you, man.
Who am I, the family?
Who am I, man? Thank you, man.
Who am I? The energy field on risk was starting to increase, and the whole was starting to lose its color. So the Riskians needed to build protection, a dome of gold dust to protect the planet from the damaging ultraviolet rays. Gold reflects the sun's rays. Pure gold can easily be beaten or hammered to a thickness of 0.00005 inches and 1.02 ounces, or simply thinner than paper, and can be stretched for more than 60 miles long. It can be made thinner than any metal. This is one of the reasons why gold is a very precious metal and is greatly valued by the humans today. 18. It is one of the softest metals, and it is good conductor of electricity and heat, and it can be easily vaporized better than any metal. Gold is also capable of reflecting intense heat and holds up under any conditions. Having this and much more advanced knowledge about pure gold, other metals and minerals, the Riskians knew exactly what they were coming for. Gold, having existed since the creation of the planet, Earth, as you know it, can be found deep in the Earth's crust, volcanic ash, as well as in the vast oceans of this planet. Anu and the other Elohim knew that the gold of this earth was good long before the birth of man. 19.
Pause right there. Thank you. I'm going to let you continue here in a minute. But it takes us back to, I think it's Genesis, and someone will probably have to look this up. Genesis 2, it says the gold in Ethiopia, the gold in that land is good, right? That takes us, there's good gold in that land. So it's giving you a context of where that cliche came from. It's just the second, I think it's just the first or second chapter in Genesis where they talk about someone's looking at the planet like, yo, there's some good gold over there where we created these people. You know, it's like, okay, they're getting that concept from, after this war took place, right? And I wanted to start off with the wars and Lucifer and all that to let you know. That was the main reason why they kind of started coming here doing this last cycle, start mining this gold, is because they had a war that took place that destroyed their planet. They was trying to reverse the damage that was done to their planet. This is the for real war in the heavens, right? We done heard this a lot of times. Y'all who are just now tuning in, y'all remember Revelation chapter 12, verse 7, when it speaks about Michael and the war in heaven against the dragon, right? This is where they're getting that story from. and it was two of them. It was two battles with the dragon. It's saying the first one was with Tarnush, and then Tarnush had a son, and Michael tried to raise him up like a Jedi, but he rejected them and had another battle. So that was another fallout. But please, brother, please continue with verse 19.
19. The Riskians
Yes.
had to abort Risk and to go to Casul Orion, which is a 6-star, 6 major sun constellation, thus having hundreds of galaxies. The Riskians took the residence in the planet and star constellation of Mazzaroth and Aish, Arcturus, and Camus, Pleiades, making them also temporary homes. Exploration was necessary, thus the grafting of the explorers became a necessity.
Let's pause right there. Let's pause right there, family. Okay, so once again, because of the war, we had to spread out and become pretty much like new refugees in different star systems, different planets. You had read right there, brother, that one of the places they went to was Casul, or what we call Orion. We always talk about Orion's belt and how it touches the pyramids in Giza, right? How it touches the pyramids on Lamu or Mars, right? And how it lines up with various pyramids all over the planet at certain angles, right? This is to give us a direct window to one of the first places we went to after the war, because we had to regenerate, we had to reestablish, we had to regroup. We had just lost our planet. So it was like, yo, we got to go somewhere else. Let's figure out something. Or we can get gold from Earth to save the planet before it completely destroys itself. Let's do that. Who we gonna send to go do that? We gotta send somebody. We can't go because we done lost a lot of people. We got some damages psychologically and spiritually. We gotta rebuild. We gotta make somebody to go find out if it's really got gold or not. So we going into 20 right now.
20.
Go ahead, brother.
20. This need gave birth to Rumarians, later to become known as Greys. These extraterrestrial biological entities, EBEs, were grafted from various extraterrestrial species. They were emotionless and without reproductive capabilities.
Let's pause right there for 1 second, just to give everybody some context, right? So, family, what we're really talking about is our people getting into a war, going to other places as refugees just to rebuild, and then we had to start making things to help us come back. One of the things we made was these Greys, and these Romardians, they were different than what the Greys you normally see on TV do and say and act like. These were a little bit taller, a little bit more, let's just say agreeable. They were agreeable because we were giving them instructions to go to planets and actually see, hey, go see if Earth got any gold and see if we can live there. It's got an atmosphere and see if there's anybody down there. We would send them out as scouts for us, these original Romardians that we created. Now, what happens after that? And I'll give you some context, family. These Greys were later basically attacked and kidnapped by other disagreeable species. And they used their DNA, put it in their Greys, and they kind of made their own Greys. And if you think about these Romardians, you think about these Greys, you gotta liken it to like a Mac computer. These were like biological iMacs, iPads. Yeah. You dig?
I was thinking organic robots.
Exactly. That's it. And organic robot, organic Android, organic iPhone. If your iPhone had a body and it could do something, so that's the concept here. But please read on, brother.
21. They serve but one purpose, and that is to, as explorers and worthy servants. Their explorations took them to Lamu, called Mars, and Shesky, called the Moon, where plans for the construction of cylinders crafts called shams were built. This took place after the collision with the crash of the Daniga fleet, also known as the Four Winds.
1 second. The Ninga fleet, all right? Yep, the Ninga fleet. Yep. So this is talking about that crash, the Nibiru, the accident that happened, that actually caused the Earth to kind of reform itself the way it is today. Everyone knows that the Earth has an inner world, a whole on top of it and a hole at the bottom of it, North and South Pole. And we've also been taught by the master teacher that this is what the Elohim or the Anunnaki or the angels or whatever you want to call them, when they come in, it's like a gas station, right? It's got the inside of the gas station and the outside of the gas station. We on the outside by the pump, y'all. They going inside the store, which is the inner world. So there's an opening at the top and the bottom based on that collision that took place. But please go ahead, brother. Keep reading, man. Please.
22. They transported gold dust to the moon, then to Nibiru, and from there on to the planet Risk. When this job was completed, these beings were given their freedom. 23. They chose Pleiades and Arcturus as their home. Malevolent Luciferian-type reptilians chose to conquer them and enslave them by performing biological experiments, thereby creating hybrids of them. Mm-hmm. And they used them as explorers to this planet. Right. And they still control some of them in this very day.
Before you go into 24, we just covered that. Some of these Grumarians, they was cool. They was agreeable, and we sent them as explorers, but some of them got intercepted by the reptilian boys, the disagreeables, and they snatched them up and put their DNA in them and made them their own iPad version. And then they started sending them down to Earth. So when they started reporting to us back in the days up till now, that all these people are being abducted by these grays, them are not our grays. Mm-hmm. Them is the reptilian grays coming down here doing things under the reptilian side of it. For whatever reason, and it's really for reproduction. Most of all the extraterrestrials that come here right now, there's real extraterrestrials and not the secret government flying the UFOs. Most of them are coming for genetic experiments because they done burnt out their planets through war and everything else, and now most of them can't reproduce. That's why Adam, when he was created, it was such a big deal to them. They're like, oh, these people are gonna be able to reproduce on their own? They're gonna have kids by themselves without we controlling them? Oh, no, we can't do that. So that was a lot of beef that happened too. That was the fear tactic that Iblis was using. Like, yo, you gonna make another blood shedder and they gonna be able to reproduce? And we was here first. You know, it's that arrogant side of it that tilted the axis and started that second battle. But please, brother, I'm enjoying the reading, man. Please go ahead. Let's go ahead and close this thing on out here, man. Let's go. 24. Those that took their freedom resided in the Canis Major star constellation near Set, also called Sothis, which is Sirius in the Dog Star, having 2 major and 6 minor suns Zeta Reticuli, just south of the Orion belt. 25. Right. It's telling us like the first capital that we had set up was in Sirius, right? Mm-hmm. And it's letting you know the disagreeables, right? Where they went to, right? Go ahead, bro.
25. These grays sought union with the beings of Earth, having a common enemy, Lucifer, who controls 70 of their empires.
Pause right there. Before you go to 26, that's another side caveat. That's another side effect, family. If you ever watched Ancient Aliens, I'm pretty sure y'all done seen it on TV. Now the government is dropping the UFO documents. They're doing it for a reason, right? It's letting you know that even though some of these grays was kidnapped by the reptilians, the bad Elohim Anunnaki had their genes put in them, and they've been sent down here to do the reptilian job. Some of them was like, no, save me. I hate these niggas. So they've been trying to make deals or side deals with the humans for a long time. Thus you get Dwight Eisenhower making a deal, cutting a deal with these grays back in the day. And the deal was for this group of grays to be allowed to abduct so many people of that European ancestry under this treaty, to be able to get into their genetics to figure out how to make the grays reproduce on their own, right? Because it's a reproduction war going on up there, right? So Eisenhower allowed them, this is back in the day, look it up, Dwight Eisenhower striking a deal with the grays. He allowed the grays to abduct so many people of that ancestry because that ancestry is vibrating on a certain frequency. They couldn't mess with the Melanites because they got treaties. The Anunnaki got treaties of what the reptilians can and cannot do to us while we're down here, right? So they didn't abduct us like that, right? Not at that moment in time, right? So he made treaties, they started abducting these people, and they got the technology to wipe your memory away. But it only works 97% of the time. So that 3% start recalling. And that's why we got all these stories in the form of ancient aliens or whatever. And now this stuff is coming into a bubble because people done got evidence that the grays are really real. But it's almost like which species of grays. And I tell people this all the time. If you ever see a ship and people say, man, when the ship show up, you don't know what ship that is. Every ship that show up ain't our ship. Don't walk to it, you don't know that. You can't do that. And I'm telling y'all right now, when they first started introducing these ships down here to us, in the next few months, maybe a year, be weary, because it's not gonna be us. They setting up a narrative, right? How this thing is gonna play out. But please, brother, go ahead and read on. We just got a few minutes left.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about what you were saying. It looked like 6 ether is like an empty vessel that they can do whatever they want with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I'll tell y'all this, right? Some of those first crafts that y'all gonna see that they're gonna try to use to introduce to us, some of those gonna be holograms that they projecting in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on right now and start looking at some of these crafts. Yep, they're doing it right now, right? But they're setting up a narrative. So, you know, when our people decloak, because our people are really here, they're just watching and waiting for us to do and step up and really do something. Y'all remember that movie with Sanaa and Lathan in it called The Predators or whatever? Mm-hmm. And at the end of the movie when she fought with the Predator and she thought it was just her and him on the planet, the whole Predator ship just decloaked right there in front of her. They were here the whole time watching the battle take place. Just like our people are here right now, cloaked up, watching everything play out the way it's supposed to. Because we only got a few years popping, a few years left, family. But go ahead, bro. Go ahead, man. Let's go ahead and read the rest of this and get some context to it. Do we have any questions right now amongst the family? All right, let's go. Where did you leave off, bro?
26. As a great warrior, the Riskians engaged Murdock's service. They needed somebody who was a warrior type to go and seek out the gold and transport it to Nibiru to Risk. Mm-hmm. 27, the Riskians were being ambushed by reptilians.
Pause right there. That's why they got Murdock, family. Notice that. Notice how if you go to the store and somebody points you out and take your money, you go get your big cousin and go back to the store, right? So Murdock is the big cousin because they knew that the Riskians was being ambushed by the reptilians. So they needed somebody that they know that was about their life to come to Earth to make sure, hey, we need this gold to repair the home planet. We gotta send that dude down there to really get this gold. So Murdock represented that dude. So please read on, brother.
28. And at that time, Murdock was a disagreeable Yahwehan, or what you would call a warrior. 29. So he was chosen to lead this mission, which first had to be started by attacking Humbaba. 30. Murdock was given the Tilu weapon, a red beam of light, or a light beam ray gun from the gemstone Sardius, a laser that was created by his grandfather Anu to stop Taurus.
Right there, AKA thunderclap, right there all day. What it says, the red beam of light, you see that? What did he get? He said Murdock was given the Tilhu weapon, a red beam of light or a light beam gun from gemstone. He got it from his grandfather. So Anu slid him to peace like, yo, use this when you go down there. Show them what this do. Right, all day, thunderclap. Go ahead, brother.
Thunderclap again.
That's it.
Sardius, a laser that was created by his grandfather Anu to stop Tarnush in his disagreeable ways. He ascended in his mission. 2031, the goal was being transported by cylinder-shaped crafts, 30 to 60 miles in size. 32, they were assembled on Lamu, Mars, and parked on the dark side, Chesky, the moon.
That means they was making them on Mars and they was parking them on the moon. Now keep in mind, they use planets the way we use houses. Man, I just bought this new ride. It's in my first house, but I'm finna park my other car, my little side house, my condo. That's how they looking at this thing, y'all. They parking ships like cars in their apartment or their house, which is like planets. So please read on, bro.
Because then the Tamahu wasn't around then. They would have charged them up for the parking.
You already know. They gotta check out by 11. You know what it is.
That's right. 33. The smaller crafts were 1.5 miles by 2 miles.
Keep in mind, I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but keep in mind, some of these dimensions that you just described is what Elijah Muhammad was referring to when he saw these mother planes. 1/2 mile by mile long, right? And when Elijah Muhammad said he looked in them, he seen what he thought was Orientals. He was looking at Romardian grays. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, armies.
Right. And as we read on later in the tablets, Dr. Malachi Z. York will contest that the spiritual side of Elijah Muhammad is Romardian before he came down here. So it makes sense when the messenger was showing us or telling us back in the day, hey, I looked in there. Now, why was he even allowed to go there and see those people? Because he was one of them. He was looking in like, oh, this is what I see. These are Orientals. And he was also referred to as the black man that looked like he was an Oriental, Elijah Muhammad. So this is kind of making like a reference to that as well when he was telling us the dimensions of the mother planes. Please read on, bro.
He was allowed because he was walking home, right?
That's it.
34. They had an android called robotoids that would scout out the minerals of the planet controlled by the Romardians. 35. So Humbaba and his followers who supported him, which was 1/3 of risk, were cast out and was never to return there. 36. Humbaba had taken residence in the planet Titan, which is considered a moon of Saturn, which with a breed of reptilian beings. The largest of Saturn's 18 known satellites in Titan is Titan. The diameter of Titan, including its atmosphere, is 3,400 miles. This satellite in your solar system had a thick atmosphere, and it is about 2.5 times as dense as that of the Earth. Titan's atmosphere is mostly nitrogen, which with small amounts of mostly nitrogen, which with small nitrogen or methane and other hydrogen compounds. 37.
That's pause right there, brother. Pause right there, brother. Now, this is giving you, right, the refugee sites of Humbaba after he got that thunderclap and they lost that war. They couldn't go to the major planets. They couldn't go to Saturn. They couldn't even come to Earth, right? Like that. They had to set up shop on Titan. It's giving you the dimensions of Titan, the gas, what they was breathing, and everything like that. But keep in mind, right, that even though they had took some of the Romardians and tried to change their DNA and use them all they wanted to, they still couldn't beat the Anunnaki, right? They were still like mercenaries on the run trying to set up shop on the smaller moons of these larger planets. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and read the rest of this for us, brother, and eventually we're gonna discuss it and talk about it more. But 37, they, Humbaba and his followers were mammalia, any of the various warm-blooded reptile animals of the class of mammals from the late Latin mammalis, of the breasts from the Latin mamma or mama, meaning breasts. This mixture breed human-looking snakes called serpents, people who speak what they whisper. And that's odd because we know that the word in Hebrew for the whisperer is kanas, the whisperer. Kanas is who was in Genesis chapter 3 talking to Adam and Eve, really talking to Eve first. He was whispering. It's a meaning, it's a concept because he was of that species that's right here in the Holy Tablets, right? Because of the damage that Tarnush had done to the planet Risk, the Riskians started expeditions looking for gold. Murdock and a group of the Anunnaki were chosen to seek this gold, which they knew could be found in abundance on the planet Tiamat, meaning Maiden of Life. They made many trips in a mothercraft called Nibiru, and means planet of the crossings or that which crosses the skies. So basically it's giving us context. They needed someone they could trust, needed someone that could fight off the reptilians, needed someone that can negotiate with the people of the planet and come down and get this goal. This is a cycle of time that we're talking about, family, that happened before modern day human beings was created. But it is our story. These are our people. This is what we was doing before we came here. This is us, family, right? The one thing that I want to, go ahead, bro. You got a question or comment?
No, I got a comment, basically. I wanted to make a reference to a book that Nabu put out, The Beholding Cross. And it kind of breaks down a lot of this stuff that's dealing with Nibiru. Because I remember him making reference to the crossing of Nibiru. And that would be a good reference for us to go back and look for that book and check it out.
Absolutely. And family, you heard it here. Let's seek out that book. Let's read it. Let's get it. Does anyone have any questions about what we covered so far tonight? I'm pretty sure you guys are already familiar with it, but it's just kind of good to go back over it and read the context. I wanted people to really get kind of like the nature startup story of Halal, who we call the devil, or Lucifer. It's giving you kind of like some plain common sense explanations of why he responded and did what he did. Number one, it's always a family you come from to a certain extent, right? That's what people look at first. But Mikael or Murdock, he didn't really think about that. He's like, yo, I know he's from the disagreeable side, but I'm going to take him up and try to teach the boy something good, right? So then he had a choice, right? We're all given a choice, regardless of what family we come from or what choices our family made. We're all given choices. Well, this dude, he still went back to his father's side of his nature. He still rebelled. And it's caused like a catastrophic catastrophe on our planet. It got us mining gold, got us coming through the solar system again, got us breeding human beings through the gold mine and eventually after that for us. So this is kind of like the base story concept of why the Anunnaki even came to Earth this last time and did what they did and made people down here. You know, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and go ahead and read a little bit further down. I think we got like a few minutes left, family. Any questions right now? Any concerns?
Well,
all right. Yeah, what?
Yeah, so when they came to get the gold, right? Because first they planted, you know, the got messed up to the point where the ozone layer, you know what I mean? So that's why they had to come here, because it was like a beam, right, that messed up the ozone layer, right?
Oh yeah, we read about that earlier. It was Tarnush. He used some type of bomb. Yeah. Aerosol bomb, yeah.
Oh, he was a bomb. Okay.
Yeah,
so when they came here to get the gold, right? But Tarnish, right? Did he already have like reptilians with him when he had the bomb? Like, was there reptilians with Tarnish?
Yeah, he was squatted up when he came to Risk.
He was a reptilian already?
Well, he had more than the reptilians. That was just his squad. He had a third of the people that was listening to him from that realm. So imagine if it's pretty much a general over a fleet of ships, and one of his commanders go rogue and take a third of the fleet with him. That's what happened. Murdock was the general of the fleet under Anu, but Humbaba or Tarnush, he had convinced a third of the military to mess with him, to really roll with him, because they thought that the old way of governance wasn't the right thing to do. So he convinced a third of the fleet. So he had more than just reptilians with him. He had other species of Anunnaki or Elohim or angelic beings, however you want to call it, rocking with him when he did this. It was a third of them. So that was a lot, right? That was like one of the first wars. But then after that, his son was able to raise up a small group, like 200, to go do some espionage, sabotage type stuff. But yeah, Tarnush definitely had a third of the heavens with him. That was a lot of people.
Wow. Okay, but when they came to Earth to get the gold, it was reptilians here when they came to get the gold also.
Oh yeah, most definitely. They was already here. Yeah, they was here, man. It was a lot of different people here. It wasn't just the reptilians here. There were early humanoids that were here. There were different species that were already down here. And then you got to think, there were some of us that were still here because we came to this solar system prior to that. We had already been to this solar system. It's like if I ask you, man, have you ever been to LA? And you like, man, I'd have been 3 times. So that means you done made 3 routes to LA on the Nibiru, and I've never been. This might be my first time going to LA, my first time going to Earth. Well, some of them, it was their first time coming to Earth because they were living on risk, but risk got destroyed. So sometimes, you know, when you go someplace, it's your first time. Some of them were coming to this planet for the first time, but some of them had stayed here. And then other species start coming down here. You really got to look at Earth like Vegas at the time. You had different people coming from everywhere that was already here. And then some people were evolving naturally in the environment that were here. So yes, it was reptilians in the seas here when everything happened. And then even after that, when everything did happen, they started coming for the gold, you had more species that came here. Because they wanted to figure out, hey, why is the Anunnaki going to Earth and doing all this mining and shit? What's going on? Why are they doing this? And they start coming to Earth. And once they start seeing, hey, they doing this, they done made some Rubardians down here. Hey, let's jack some of them Rubardians. They done made some people down here to mine the gold. Let's jack some of them people. So you had different species coming down here seeing it as an opportunity. But the Anunnaki was coming trying to make this gold get back to their home world so they can save it because the atmosphere was dangerous. So yes, it was people here too. It was different species of people. But it wasn't humans the way we are today with no homo sapiens rocking down here like that. Does that answer your question, brother?
Oh yeah, answer my question. Answer my question.
Okay, all right, that's what's up.
Thinking about like the troglodytes. Those, you know, what's troglodytes?
Yeah, they call troglodytes. Little small people.
So they was the original owners. Like they was like, you know, was they that species that was originally here? Because we crashed into their planet, right? That's where I got confused at. I want to know like what was they the original ones here, or did we crash into their planet?
We crashed into their planet. Their planet was next door to Earth at one time. It was called Murdock or Vulcan. That's kind of where Star Trek got the term Vulcan from, right? So yeah, these troglodytes, they was living in the water, right? And they had like another group that was their relatives that were a little bit different. They were taller and they would go on land and sunbathe, come out of the water. Well, when the accident happened, all the good ones got killed because they was on land. And the bad ones, these little guys, these little warriors, some of them escaped the planet before it completely went off into space and destroyed itself. And they started attacking Nibiru. So yeah, Nibiru bumped into their planet by accident, which is right next to Earth, which is why you see an asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. That asteroid belt, a lot of that's Earth, but a lot of that's Murdock. They got destroyed. Yeah, and you'll find a lot of that as you read on in this first chapter of the tablets. So if you got the tablets, man, take the time to go ahead and read on into it, and you'll see, oh, Nibiru hit this, and this happened. This is happening. The gold is happening. It's simultaneous things happening at the same time in the tablets, and that's why sometimes it can be overwhelming if you don't just slow it down and just do it page by page, which is why I wanted us to start doing this exercise, to start reading it page by page like elementary school, word L, elementary school, right? To get the basics and the foundation down so you can see it, because it's really supposed to make you think about the question, right? When you read this. So hopefully that answers your question there. You have another one, or does anyone else have any other comments right now?
I only have like one comment, which is basically like, I always think to myself, how come they wasn't able to predict the crash? That's just my only comment. You know what I mean? I know ain't no way of us answering it, but like, I always think to myself, like, with all, you know what I mean? Because I'm in my mind, I'm thinking like, they was probably able, with all the advanced technology that they have, they was probably able to predict the storm.
Trust me, brother. I used to ask the same question about 2.5 decades ago. But I'm gonna tell you this, we just kind of answered it, right? Some of them, this was their first time coming. The ones on that Nibiru that came and had that accident, it was their first time coming through. So they was on a new ship with a new crew that hadn't been it because they sent Murdock there, right? They hadn't been here like that before. So when they came by into the solar system, remember they're coming from the outside of the solar system into our solar system. So the first couple of planets that we recognize that are on the outside is Uranus and Neptune. Well, Neptune had some storms on it that were massive and electrical. Neptune's a water planet. When the Nibiru came around, it didn't know that them storms in that field was gonna damage their ship. So their ship got damaged, and they kind of had to step to the left to keep from being blown up by this electrical field, this electrical storm that was on Neptune. When they pulled back on Neptune, they did it so fast that the electrical storm backfired on Neptune, and it electrocuted basically 2/3 of everybody that was on the planet. It killed basically everybody on Neptune. That one accident of Nibiru pulling back from the electrical storms, it damaged Nibiru. So Nibiru, they didn't have communications. They didn't have predictability. They were trying to repair their ship as they were coming closer to the inside of the solar system. So they were completely thrown off. It's like we in the club turning up, and all of a sudden, somebody hit the table and the music go off. Everybody like, what the? That's what it felt like. That's what happened. We was thrown off. We couldn't really focus on the music because we had to get the lights on. We had to get the lights on, so to speak, and get the Nibiru working again. That's why it swirled off of Neptune, and as it came in, it still couldn't self-control and self-navigate. So it accidentally ended up kissing off some of the moons of Saturn. Because before this accident, this is 25 billion years ago, family. Before this accident, Saturn didn't have any rings. It had a whole bunch of moons around it. When the Nibiru got damaged by Neptune, it came in, it started smashing up moons around Saturn. It got free of Saturn and bumped into Murdock. So it was kind of coming back from the club, coming through the house, just stumbling, knocking over everything, so to speak, right? So it eventually killed, people on Murdock, and some of them came here. So hopefully that answers some of your questions, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right, family. Okay, so 43, the planet Gaga, Pluto, at this time was an emissary of Anshar, Saturn, before it was thrown into its own wobbling orbit when one of the satellites of Nibiru crashed into the planet Tiamat, now called Earth. Those were some of the planets that were on Nibiru's regular routes. The planet Tiamat was a regular stop-off as well, along with the planet Mars, which to the Romans is known as the father of Romulus and Remus. He was the consort of Ray and Sylvia, the god of war, originally called Mars, Salvanus, god of desolate places. Salvanus was symbolized as a half man and a half goat, the father of war. Right? He's just giving you symbolic meaning behind, Greek mythology. Symbolic of the ancient Egyptian deity Ra, the symbol of the ram, deity of the sun, fertility of life and growth, which is pronounced as Ray, as in the rays of the sun. The reverse of the word Mars is rams, and the inversion of the word Mars is wars, a symbol of blood called the red planet, also called El Mirich, the long arrow, symbol of war. Other names for it is El Cronus and Bahram. 47 is giving you some of Mars's data, Mars's dimensions. Mars, data. Distance from the sun, 142 million miles. Diameter, 40,022 miles. The time Mars takes to orbit the sun, 680 days. And that's odd too, family, because as I started listening, and it references things in the Holy Tablets, and even Dr. Melikazi York was breaking down the different time systems of the planets. Like if we were to go to Mars or Venus right now and stay there for a day and come back to Earth, it might be hundreds of years that have passed. It's a crazy concept when you think about space-time, and we think about how some of these Anunnaki live forever. It's based on the time system they come from. Go ahead, family.
In the movie Interstellar, they talk about the concept you're talking about, and they also talk about the Anunnaki in that movie. Like they really do. You know what I mean? They talk about the Anunnaki in movies, but they never really say, like Prometheus. They was talking about the Anunnaki in that movie. And in Interstellar, they was talking about, like what you said, you go, you know, they would go into space for like 3 months, but it was like a year, you know what I mean, on Earth. Like, you know what I mean, he would get pictures from his Earth. He would get pictures, like his daughter would send him mail. You know what I mean? Like, and even though they was in space, they was far out there, he was still able to get the mail, the video recorded. You know what I mean? He hasn't been gone for that long, but she was a grown woman already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's real talk. Time frames on other planets, they vary.
Yeah, but it was this alien race they was talking about. They never showed that alien race, but they was talking about how advanced they were and how they were watchers and stuff. That movie Interstellar is a trip.
Yeah, the watchers come from some of the Anunnaki that stayed on them crafts that was watching everything too. So some of those concepts, you're right, brother, they come from our story. And keep in mind those beings that was talking to him in that movie, he said they had evolved past their bodies. They didn't need physical bodies anymore. That sounds a lot like the first class of the Holy Tablets when we read about the Etherians personified as Melanites, physical form beings. Before that, they was conscious gases, non-ether. So, you know, those movies be talking about us, family. They're just giving you little bits and pieces of some of these tablets, all right? Go ahead, bro.
It sounds like you've seen the movie before.
Oh, yeah. I don't let too many pass from me, man. I just be taking the jewels from most of the movies, you know? And it's odd that you would say that because, you know, one of my things is, you know, I like a good movie that deals with some science in it, you know, and mainly our science, right? And when I look at some of the Marvel movies, you know, they were digging. Stan Lee was digging straight out of some of Doc stuff and some ancient stuff. Real talk, because you look at, I mean, just the whole concept of the Wakandan king and how he had the females around him, right? Man, I was on Kodesh. That's the real thing, yes. You know, I was on the land seeing that. You know, I'm like, oh, okay, I see this concept. Or you look at how they portrayed Thanos in the movie, and it's almost giving him some of that Anu replica image based on what he was trying, what they were setting him up to be. You know, so it's some wild stuff. But
now I basically learned about the Dora Milaje and basically like the real story behind it. You know what I mean? Like how they were elephant trainers, but like basically they was the royal guard. Like they was the royal guard for the king. And like I just thought that was really like cool. You know, like how it was like based off of like that real thing. And I hear what you're saying about Thanos too.
Yeah, they get a lot of that concept from the Amazonian tribes and some of the female tribes that rule, and it's female tribes that rule on Venus too. That's why they said men are from Mars, women are from Venus. So a lot of this stuff comes from when we came down here and started living out, you know, our legacy down here from places that we came from. So that's some powerful stuff, man.
No, I just like when I first like got into this and I was like reading about it, I just like took it like I was like, wow, this is like a really, really like cool story, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, cause like it's like you really, really start. I really, really start to take it seriously. Like when I saw the star maps, you know what I mean, of the whole galaxy before like telescopes and stuff was invented, and they had them on them old Sumerian tablets, and they had all the planets in the right formation, and then they had the Bureau included. And then I saw it was on like but that was just like, you know, one of the things I looked at and I was like, oh man, like this is like, you know, like real seriously.
Yeah, this is for real stuff, family. They kind of made it into Hollywood, so when we finally read it, we keep it like, oh, this ain't real. Like, yeah, they've been doing that for a long time, but where do you think they get the movie pieces from? They're not creative enough to create that type of concept, so they got to come with something, put their spin on it, and then put it out for it to really hit with the people. I always say that. I mean, the most entertaining movies got some type of substance in them from something that happened. You know, it's always been that way. It's always been that way. So let me see. 29. We're at page 29. Any other questions and comments right now, family, before we close it out? All right. Okay, cool. I'm going to close it out here, family. I'm going to read the rest. All right. 48. Mars shines in the sky with a reddish color and is sometimes called the red planet. The orbit of Mars is more oval than that of the Earth. Mars' thin atmosphere is made up of almost entirely carbon dioxide. Temperatures on the planet equator may occasionally reach 60 degrees Fahrenheit. However, during the shadow hours, temperatures can drop to negative 202 degrees. All right, now keep in mind, they got people up there right now. They've been having people on Mars since the 80s, right? It's nothing new, right? Let's say here. 50, the Martian soil also contains an abundance of gypsum, which can be baked by adding some Martian water and iron-rich dust. On Earth, this is called cement. It has two moons, one called Phobos, 19 miles at its widest points, and it circles its planet at a distance of 2,462 miles. Phobos completes its orbit in about 7.5 hours, which is less time than it takes Mars to turn once on its axis. The other Deimos is 12 miles at its widest points. It circled Mars at its distance of 14,700 miles. Both Phobos and Deimos were born by meteorites, captured as asteroids in its orbit. Here you will find prototypes of Homo sapiens. All right, because that's where the Anunnaki first started breeding Homo sapiens, was on Mars. They perfected them down here on the planet. So all the beings that are on Mars were just side projects of them trying to perfect the Homo sapien. And then they came to Earth and perfected the Homo sapien. So yes, family, there's people on Mars. So right now, I don't know what we're doing for time, but if anyone has any questions, concerns, or comments, we're gonna open everything up for discussion. And if not, we can close everything out, family.
Cool. I mean, like, my last question is like, so the only purpose of the face on Mars was like what, a signal that it's a laboratory here or something?
Yeah, it was like to let other species know as they crossed over Mars, hey, we breeding something down here. This is a project. We got a genetic project going on right here. Don't come down here. Don't go down to Earth. So yes, it was a marker. I think there was a movie called Mission to Mars, and they tried to do like some type of science behind the face on Mars, but it was real cheesy. But they also showed in the movie that these beings made man on Mars and then came to Earth. So yeah, it was a beacon. And if you take that image of Mars, the face on Mars, and you put the car's face on top of it, it matches. So they was really letting people know we're trying to perfect the Homo sapien. Right, because they were already making Homo sapiens, but some of them wasn't what they wanted. It wasn't until when they got to Zakar that they had perfected them. So it was just a beacon, like a beacon on like a building, to let the incoming people know, hey, this is what we're doing down here. So with that said, if there are no further questions or comments at the moment, man, we appreciate that. I got your information, brother. We're gonna connect with you soon. All right.
Information.
Yes.
Cool. Just one comment.
Yes.
Actually, one word. Power.
Absolutely.
Power.
Yes. All right, family. Brother, can you close us out with with our affirmation, please?
Abdul Kul Bazum Tapalatet, Wandana Ben Mark Radus, Aishu Unakot, Anuki Fiana Aishu Shukalu, Kula Shukalu, Na the Kunafikalu. Anuki Ferragun Shukalu Wakaluka Ferragun Shuni, Anuki Wahid Kakalu Wakaluka Wahid Mani, Nuk Aikilu Anju, Kama Ferragun Shukalu Wakama Feidu, Nuk Aikilu Away Mudik Nuka Fikalu, Kama Tauka Makafati Kalu, the Ami Fikalu, Anuki Kabahawa, Kalu Kalu Nanuki, Kalu Yaku, Kekilu Kalu Babu, Atmi, Kahun Fin. Begin all thinking, prayers, deeds with who divine love in the all. I am in the love of all, and all love is me. We are all in all. I am a part of all, and all is a part of me. I am one with all, and all is one with me. I can succeed as a part of all and build as an individual. I can be all I wish in all as long as my wishes stay in all. I am never alone. All is I am. All can I can. All does I do. Who am I?
Who am I? Peace and blessings to all the family listening. We'll keep everyone updated for the next class session. Thank you all. Have a great night. Wadu.
Wadu.